thousands of years of history is experienced by those who travel Germany's romantic road. With its world-famous historic cities, fortresses and palaces, from Würzburg to Neuschwanstein Castle. The picturesque Baroque town of Würzburg is located on the River Main, amid the Franconian wine region, and is dominated by the mighty Marienburg fortress. The Celts created a fortress here that subsequent rulers gradually extended. The oldest church in Franconia, including a massive watchtower, continues to be protected by several huge walls. Between 1642 and the middle of the 18th century, 3 prince-bishops gave the city its Baroque architecture. Only the Chapel of Mary in the marketplace remained Gothic. The Neumünster church was built as a Romanesque basilica until it was later transformed. The first cathedral in the city is adjacent and contains some Episcopal grave monuments. Beyond this is the Kronos fountain at the Hofstrasse, which leads to a magnificent building. Architect Balthasar Neumann laid the foundations for this residence in 1720, one of the most important castles in Europe. Close to the River Main, the bishop's justice was dispensed from within a tower. And the nearby Alterkranen is a reminder of the heyday of the city's merchants. Tauberbischofsheim is one of the oldest cities in the popular Tauber Valley that was once completely walled. Missionary Bishop Boniface founded Germany's first women's monastery in Germany in 735 AD and installed a family member, Lioba, as abbess, who tutored mainly the daughters of the nobility and the Free Franks. This Catholic town church is in neo-Gothic style and contains the precious altars and sculptures from previous religious buildings. The Bischomer Tod welcomes visitors at the Electoral Mainz Residential Palace, an ensemble of buildings of different construction periods. Here, the episcopal administrator resided from 1237 to 1803 under the massive Turmer's Tower. And hidden behind various buildings are sections of the old city walls. The romantic old town provides a lasting impression of its historic past. Around the rectangular market square are grouped splendid timber-framed buildings next to the neo-Gothic town hall with its coats of arms and numerous decorations. A fitting prelude to the next city. Rottenburg ob der Tauber, located on the romantic road, and where Germany's Middle Ages have been preserved up to the present day, as experienced by the countless visitors who come here. Huge entrance gates and high walls lead into this former imperial city. Rhoda Lane leads to the old city centre. In the middle of the marketplace, with its Gothic town hall and tower, there's a fountain and also a Renaissance town hall. The Gothic town hall has a medieval side. And the City Hall's tall tower is known as German Jerusalem, and also as the High-Built City. Heron Lane leads past a Franciscan church, a Spartan medieval sacred building with 5 chapels and numerous tombs along its walls. Next, a fortified city gate, the Burg Gate. It is the city's oldest and largest gate tower, which originally contained a drawbridge. Formerly well secured by guards and customs houses. The main St. Jacob Church was built in High Gothic style, and its construction took more than 100 years. The 12-messenger altar, the main altar, is one of the most important in Germany. It was created in 1466, financed by generous donations and manufactured by Swabian master craftsmen. Behind the organ is the Holy Blood altar, an ancient religious relic. Each of the subjects of the free imperial city of Rottenburg was able to see from a distance this fine city landmark to which they had to deliver crops as a tax. The old city has a long history, and noble buildings that flank the marketplace form the vibrant centre that we see today. Among the city's most famous views are the Plonlein Gate, Siebers Tower, some half-timbered houses, and the massive Kobolzeller Gate. A coat of arms above the outer gate once greeted new arrivals. At the southernmost tip of the city, there was a hospital. It was there that the mighty hospital bastion was built, a later addition to the city, with 2 mighty bulwarks. Here, a small town developed at the intersection of various trade routes, with tightly packed buildings that were protected by a long, curving city wall. Even today, the city's high walls and narrow streets give a feeling of safety and security. Located above the Tauber Valley, Rottenburg is, not surprisingly, a very popular tourist destination. A picture postcard city. Originally, there was a Frankish royal court at the Wönitz Ford, a settlement developed which later became a fortified town. Since the 12th century, Dinkelsbühl was in the possession of the Staufer. Friedrich Barbarossa gave it the status of a town and presented it to his son Conrad as a dowry for his bride, Iberenguela of Castile. He immediately built a city wall around his newly received wedding gift. Patricians, craftsmen, and townhouses grouped around the former crossing of the trade routes between the Baltic and Italy, and Worms and Prague. This is the late Gothic cathedral, St. George. One of the most beautiful hall churches in southern Germany, with several altars and statues of saints, and a glass knight sarcophagus. Trade, commerce and good management by patricians and craft guilds ensured the prosperity of the city. The entire ring of walls with its towers and gates has been well preserved right up to the present day. Moats and ponds provided additional defences. And no matter through which gate one enters, each gate road leads to the marketplace. Harburg is situated at approximately the middle of the Romantic Road. Harburg is one of the best preserved castles in Germany, with 6 towers and a door system that leads to an inner courtyard. Around which there is the Hunger Tower, parapet walks, Burgfried, a castle tavern, a church and Prince's Building. It was a heavily fortified castle which blocked the way into the fertile Ries from any approaching enemies from the south. The medieval town is located on the steep slopes between the Wörnitz River and the mighty Castle Hill. An idyll that has been preserved by diverting the local traffic. The mighty castle of the princes of Oettingen-Wallerstein overlooks the small imperial city, with its winding streets, half-timbered buildings with baroque gables, and an old stone bridge over the river. Donauwörth is the next destination on the Romantic Road. Wörth is an old word for island. Donauwörth developed from a fishing settlement on the Wörnitz island of Ried, where the river flows into the Donau. In 877 AD, a bridge was built across the Donau, and an intersection of European trade routes was created. At the Reichstag of Augsburg, Emperor Karl IV bestowed the double eagle coat of arms, and in 1467 the city received the Great Liberty Letter of Emperor Friedrich III. Market rights and the mint ensured economic progress and the wealth of its citizens. The Reichsstrasse is lined with impressive townhouses. There's also a parish church with its late Gothic architecture and the largest bell in Bavaria. Its high gables and wall paintings are quite remarkable. With the once rich city of the Fugger begins the last third of the Romantic Road. Augsburg was founded in 45 AD as a Roman military camp and included the introduction of Christianity and a bishopric. Several churches, such as Ulrichs Basilica, demonstrate religious power. Perlach Tower and the City Hall form the centre of the city. Inside, the sober town hall becomes a magnificent example of early Baroque. And flying shoemaker Salomon Eidler is commemorated in Town Hall Square. Due to the trading houses of Fugger and Welser, Augsburg reached its greatest economic success and was one of the most important financial markets in Europe. The cathedral does not consist of a single structure. Further buildings were gradually added. Along with stained glass windows, an impressive storehouse, fine stone carvings, and a crypt. Set in green fields and with the dark background of mountains in the solitude of Bavaria's alpine countryside is an exceptional building. Wies Church, designated as a UNESCO World Heritage Site. From its earliest days, it's been a place of pilgrimage and divine worship for the faithful. Following 9 years of construction, Dominicus Zimmermann created a gem. A church within a meadow, in festive perfection. Bavarian Rococo in harmony with nature. The aisles in the chancel provided pilgrims with the possibility of walking around this wonderful place and to make offerings. Dominicus Zimmermann was also a master of illumination. A high-set window lets in an abundance of light. Today, pilgrimage here is more like a visit to a work of art. Wies Church, it arose from a small countryside chapel and the miracle of tears. Fussen is well worth a visit. Since 1313, the monastery and town were under the control of the bishops of Augsburg, who had their summer residence at St. Mang's Abbey, which even today emanates impressive power. Since the Middle Ages, Fussen was also an important trading centre, with the Hohe Schloss, which towers majestically above the old town. The view extends across rooftops to the nearby foothills of the Alps. In the late 13th century, Duke Ludwig der Severe of Bayern began the construction of the castle, which was later extended and rebuilt several times. From St. Mang, Irish wandering monk Magnus propagated the Christian faith. The origins of the history of settlement date back to Roman times, when a Roman legion was stationed on Castle Hill. In the Middle Ages, Füssen developed into an increasingly wealthy commercial city. Both church and the local economy worked well together for the city. The 30 Years' War ended its golden age, but in the late 19th century it saw a further economic revival. In 1868, Bavarian King Ludwig II had a dream come true in Allgäu, southern Germany. Castle Neuschwanstein, the realization of his amazing world of fantasy. This fairy tale castle was under construction for 17 years, and in every way the idyll of ancient German knighthood. Along an exquisitely curtained corridor, there are beautifully decorated stone pillars and a carved oak ceiling. This was where the king's adjutant resided. It even contained one of the very first telephones. There's an adjoining royal office, with scenes from Tannhauser above a precious desk. Between the office and the living room, there's an artificial stalactite cave with a small waterfall. Connected to the living room, whose entire picture gallery is devoted to the figure of Swan Knight Lohengrin. Due to the operas of composer Richard Wagner, Ludwig discovered the delights of the Middle Ages, and theatrical artists created for him this fairy tale world. The dining room is dominated by a massive tabletop made of gilded bronze. Siegfried fighting the dragon. The completely preserved kitchen boasted hot and cold water, various stoves and grill spits, powered by hot air. In his bedchamber, the lonely king also showed his special love of pageantry. A small chapel is accessible from the bedroom. And the throne hall is a most magnificent room with lateral rows of columns and a gilded apse which is reminiscent of the Hagia Sophia in Istanbul. A precious candelabra in the form of a Byzantine crown in gilt brass hangs from the bright blue firmament of the dome. Everywhere, fantastic works of art. In the passage to the last great hall, there are images from the legend of the Holy Grail painted on the walls. The monumental Singer Hall is the castle's largest and most important room. It was built for the operas of Richard Wagner. And everywhere are motifs of Parsifal, Lohengrin, and King Arthur and his Round Table. Castle Neuschwanstein became one of the most famous and most visited buildings in the world. The wealth of Occidental history, art and culture makes a journey on the romantic road a most fascinating adventure into the past. A dream journey through a country and its history.